Recently, Jeffrey Bezos ended up Thanos snapping Amazon Game Studios out of existence. They were the studio behind New World, and they were also working on an up-and-coming Lord of the Rings MMORPG that will never see the light of day. But of course, with New World, it was actually in a really good state in 2025. Sure, it did have a rocky launch back in 2021, but as of recently, I heard a lot of good things about New World. So I decided to hop into the game, and well, I was having a blast. So much so that I dressed up as my New World character, Gandalf the Wise, and I filmed an entire YouTube video of me talking about how New World is in such a good state, the combat's fun, gathering resources within the game is a blast, there's a ton of players roaming around, and well, that's no longer the case because the announcement of Amazon Game Studios being closed, the player base has dipped down, and well, I think a lot of you guys who have called New World your home, you're probably looking for a new MMORPG to call home. Of course, I could spend this video talking about World of Warcraft, but I think a majority of us already know about World of Warcraft. Yeah, they have upcoming expansions. We're all looking forward to Classic Plus. But what about now? What game could you call home today? I'm actually going to share with you guys two different options. You know, the red pill or the blue pill. And the two different options that I have in mind are Guild Wars 2 and old school RuneScape. Both of these games are in really good states as of 2025. The developers are always listening to the community for feedback and making changes in their game based off of what players want to see. So in today's video, for the New World folks who are looking for a new home, I'll be talking about both of these MMORPGs that I've been having a blast in so far.
If you do want to check me out on Twitch, I do live stream every single week.
So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll on into it. All right, so how do we start this video off? Which one do I dive into first? Well, I gotta talk about the one that has more of an engaging combat system, and that would be, in my personal opinion, Guild Wars 2. This MMORPG was released back in 2012, and boy, the studio ArenaNet has done a really good job of creating a game that stands out from the crowd of other MMORPGs, and that's simply because Guild Wars 2 doesn't really have quests, at least the traditional quests that you find in MMOs, where you talk to an NPC, you gotta do a certain activity, and then you go back to that NPC to collect your reward. In Guild Wars 2, they encourage you to roam around the game world and find dynamic events that happen in real time. You'll see a group of centaurs attack a village. Perhaps you'll be running around and you'll realize, uh-oh, I gotta put out fires that are on this farmer's crops. Like, you can do a variety of things to progress the hearts or quests in the game to get rewards. And that's a really fun way to explore the open game world and realize when you go back to zones, you'll find things that you never actually found during your first playthrough. In fact, I myself have poured thousands of hours into this game, and I still haven't seen every event that happens within the video game. Guild Wars 2 has one of the craziest character customizations of all time. Like, you can dye your armor within this video game, you can dye your mounts, you can openly change your transmog of any kind of armor appearance that you have, so you don't have to run around in these low-level armor appearances. If you collect some really cool ones, or you want to have your character be neon pink or whatever you want it to be, like, you can definitely do that within this game. Early on in development, Guild Wars 2, the team, they stated that they didn't want the game environment to just be bland. Even to this day, the newest expansion that has released, like, the environments there definitely show that ArenaNet still follows that belief that the game world itself is its own character. And let's go ahead and talk about what's happening in 2025. Well, the game does have a new expansion that launched quite recently called Visions of Eternity. This is the 6th expansion for Guild Wars 2. And you might be thinking, 6th expansion? Wait a second, I gotta play through 5 different expansions before I can hop into the newest one? No, actually, you can just hop into the newest one if you'd like to. Guild Wars 2 has been very unique because the level cap for the game has not risen past level 80. For Guild Wars 2, they don't want you to feel left behind. That means that if you take a break for 2+ years, or you have to dip out of the game for 3 months, when you return back to the game, the gear that you have is just as good as it was when you left. They do this on purpose to encourage players that it's okay to walk away from the game. It's no problem. And you might be thinking, what's the long-term goal for the game? How do I continue to progress my character? They have this whole mastery-based system where after level 80, you can train a variety of things. For example, you can train how to ride specific mounts in the game. Or if you want the mounts that you do have, let's say the Springer, if you want it to jump higher, you can train up your mastery and, well, your Springer will jump higher than ever before. And once you unlock a mastery or an ability, you have that for the rest of time, and it is shared across all the characters on your account. It's a really cool dynamic system that keeps players engaged, and even me, again, with thousands of hours, I haven't unlocked all the masteries within the game. It's something that you constantly gather as time goes on. But your gear, how you are in combat, you know, the big damage that you like to do, like, that is always gonna be the same no matter what. But the long-term vision of the game, if you want something that really keeps you hooked for a long period of time, is getting legendary armor or legendary weapons. And this is kind of the hook on the fishing line to keep players synced into the game for hours on end. It's a way for you to collect resources over time, gather materials to craft these things, and just obtain these legendary weapons. And they do have their unique ability of not only looking super cool, but you can change the stats on your weapon anytime you want to. So if you want to go from a class that has more DPS, you can do that. And if you're like, oh, I want to be a little bit more tankier or heal people, like, you can switch your weapon stats for your legendary armor or weapons anytime you want to. Guild Wars 2 has a really cool open world PvP system called World versus World. It's essentially, I guess, the Guild Wars for Guild Wars 2, where you have 3 massive servers go at each other, and they have a great time fighting over territories like castles, towers, campsites. You'll need trebuchets or catapults or rams to break into gates to enter into these buildings to capture them. It's a really cool big open map that you can explore. There's actually multiple maps that you can jump into, and a lot of times there's a queue for World versus World, so you'll have to pick a different map to hop into while you wait for the big one, Eternal Battlegrounds. But every time I play Guild Wars 2, when there's not any new updates after several months, like, you'll find me roaming around in World versus World. Most of the time I'm getting my butt kicked, but I'm having a great time nonetheless. They do have small scale PvP that you can queue into, and that's been a lot of fun. They do have a ranked mode in that, tournaments that they do every single month. You can get like exclusive rewards just by doing that, which is pretty cool that they've been doing that consistently ever since 2012. And yeah, the PvP community or World versus World community, it's not dead. Obviously, there's not a ton of new content coming into these game modes. ArenaNet does sprinkle in new maps and whatnot every once in a while. A lot of people still play these game modes because there's great rewards. It's a good way to level up your alt characters, and who doesn't like just taking your sword and shield and whacking other players within combat? It's totally a blast to hop into the PvP or World versus World aesthetic for Guild Wars 2. Stepping away from the World versus World and PvP side of things, the PvE side for Guild Wars 2, it's really fun. I guess the only downside I would say is there are instance-based maps within the game, so of course if you want to go to a new area, you're going to be encountering a loading screen, but that's totally okay that it's instance-based because there's so many dynamic events and large-scale things happening. You know, giant bosses appear out of nowhere and what have you. Like, because of so many events happening on these maps, it makes them feel all the more alive. It makes the whole game world interactable. There's just always something to do when you roam around within each map. And while you're going to be roaming around, you're probably going to be using a mount. The mount system in Guild Wars 2 is so good. Blizzard Entertainment themselves, they literally copied the Skyscale and the Griffin mount to be the dragon riding for World of Warcraft. They have taken inspiration for how ArenaNet has done mounts. And it's not only flying that's good, like, even if you ride a raptor and leap across large distances with it, it just has like a weight that I've never seen in any other MMORPG with how they do mounts. So yeah, like, you're going to be having a blast just roaming around all these maps. The game world is huge. Again, there's 6 expansions now, so it always keeps growing and evolving. Like, you're going to have a fun time enjoying Guild Wars 2, especially if you're coming from New World where you like to gather resources, you like engaging combat where you can dodge out of the way and there's not a ton of abilities on your skill bar. Guild Wars 2 has you covered. Yeah, if you're looking for an MMORPG to call home, I highly recommend jumping into Guild Wars 2. But maybe you're looking for something a little bit more chill, right? Something you want to have on your second monitor while you're watching this YouTube video. Well, you've probably heard of this game, and maybe you played it all the way back in the day, and that would be RuneScape. Now, there is two different versions of RuneScape. You have the RS3, the modern version of RuneScape, but I'm not here to talk about that game. It's actually not the most popular game entirely. The most popular one is old school RuneScape. It's essentially the version of the game that everyone played, like myself, way back in the day when we were younger. This version of the game is a throwback to how the game was back in 2007. Old school RuneScape, I believe it released in 2014 or 2013. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, it actually released all the way back then, and the developers, Jagex, they have been doing a really good job of adding new updates to the game as time goes on. With RuneScape, there really is no direction as to what you need to do. Some players want to raise their combat level to be really high, so they'll be training their magic, their attack, their range. And other players, they just want to get their woodcutting level really high, so they're chopping trees all the time. Or maybe they want to get their cooking really high. Obviously, the main appeal in this game is raising these numbers right here and seeing them go up. There are quests in the game that you can do, but I will say the quests in the game are a little bit more difficult. It takes a lot of reading to get used to, and well, if you're not using quest plugins, it's kind of more difficult to do the quests in the game. The game does have a really good wiki that you can utilize. Of course, if you're looking for something to kind of guide your way for the quests, I highly recommend using wiki or video guides. But my opinion with old school RuneScape, I've been having a blast just picking a goal entirely based off of the skills and being like, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to get my first 99 in the game? Or do I want to wear a specific set of gear that is tied to getting a specific stat? Or maybe I want to go to an area in the game where I have to complete a quest. Like, the game does a really good job of sugar trailing you to a goal. So if you set a goal of like, I want a specific item, you'll probably have to do X, Y, Z before you can get that specific goal accomplished. One thing that I highly recommend everyone tries to do is to try and get your very first 99 in the game. And this will take you, I mean, it depends what skill you end up doing. Some skills are a little bit harder to level up all the way to 99, but others are a little bit easier and you can get it done in a couple of days or so. It's a long-term goal, so it'll always keep you logging back into the game. If you're doing it alongside other players, you'll see the same folks who are always there training, progressing in the same goal that you have. And the way the game world is of just seeing people train and putting long hours, like, you'll never have to do those grinds again. It will always stick with your character for the long term. What's for the future for old school RuneScape? They do have a brand new skill, Sailing, that will be releasing in the middle of November. A lot of players are super stoked to try and hit 99 first, or just experience what this skill has. It's going to be a way to open up the game world to explore all these different islands. There'll be new resources to collect, so of course, if your woodcutting level is good or your mining is good, that's going to help you out when you explore all the different zones for sailing. And well, overall, I think old school RuneScape has some really cool things that stand out from other video games. That would be the wilderness. The wilderness has a lot of cool resources that you can collect that will earn you some money, but the downside with the wilderness, or for some players it's a downside, you can get attacked by other players in the wilderness. And if you get killed, you drop a majority of your things. And if you're attacking other players and then you get killed because you've been PvPing people, well, you're going to lose essentially all of your things up front, which it's kind of a downside if you're, attacking other players. But the wilderness in itself, it's a very dynamic place to go to, right? It's still an open world, but if you cross this barrier and jump into the wilderness, like, it's all up to your own survival and making sure you're keeping an eye on other players if you're going to survive or not. And there's really good resources and cool world bosses you can find in the wilderness, but I myself haven't gotten to that part in the game yet. I'm sure I'll have a really fun time exploring the wilderness, and maybe we'll do it on stream one day. Hopefully you don't stream snipe me, but for the wilderness, and or if you're just crafting or skilling out in the open game world or doing quests, like, you'll just sink tons of hours into old school RuneScape. And one of the best things about the game is if you're away from your computer and you still want to make progress, whether you're riding the train or you're just sitting at the doctor's office waiting to be called on, you can just take out your phone and do some leveling on your phone. Old school RuneScape does have an app where you can play the game on the go, so it makes it a game where if you're traveling or you're not going to be at your home setup, you can still make progress on the game even if you're not at home. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, moopliss, I can't get over the old school graphics for the game. It just looks so dated and ugly and ugh. Well, they do have plugins if you use the RuneLite launcher where you can make the game be HD, and it looks a lot nicer, in my opinion. Jagex is working on an official HD version for the game, so it'll look a little bit nicer, but these graphics were the ones that we got to experience all the way back in 2007, 2006, when we got to play it on our browser. So to go back and see these graphics still, like after a couple days of playing, you won't care what the graphics look like anymore. It's all about number go up. And one thing that I do gotta mention, Jagex does a really good job of pulling what future updates should come to the game. So if you guys don't know how updates get added into old school RuneScape, Jagex looks at a poll and they go, hey, we want to present this idea, should we pass it? And if the community votes, I think it's above 60 or 70% or so, then that addition will get added to the game. But if the player doesn't vote above that threshold, well, then that thing doesn't get added to the video game. And Jagex is always listening to the community. They're playtesting, they're making sure they figure out how do players feel about the game in general. It's just a really good mindset to have, knowing that this game is probably going to last for many, many, many years to come if you choose it to be your home within the MMORPG space. And yeah, essentially, those are the two options that I recommend. You know, the red pill or the blue pill. Which video game are you guys going to jump into? If you plan on jumping into any of those MMOs, feel free to join my Discord. I'm happy to chat about, you know, what levels you have in old school RuneScape or where you're at in Guild Wars 2. And of course, I will be streaming both of these games on my Twitch channel, so feel free to hop over there, say hi, and hop into these games with me. A big special shout out to my Patreon supporters for supporting my content. Thank you guys very much. If you want to see your own MMORPG character on screen, feel free to support my content and see exclusive videos. You made it all the way to the end of the video. Well, what are you doing? Why don't you like the video, leave the comment, and thank you very much for watching. As always.